right, let's talk about Ukraine, shall we? Ukraine has been carrying out, of course, a genocide on ethnic Russians that live in what was formerly eastern Ukraine. They've been doing it for years, of course, using U.S. weapons since 2014, of course, after the CIA-backed coup in that country. Well, in recent days, Ukraine has really ramped up its attacks on these civilian areas. And, of course, it's inconvenient to talk about all these civilian attacks. Like, you know, friend of the show, Patrick Lancaster, of course, has been covering it for years. We've had him, Patrick, on the show many, many times in Donetsk, in Donbass, in Luhansk, in all of those areas near Zaporizhia, where these areas, schools, playgrounds attacked by where these civilian, there's no military targets in these areas. Hitting nursery schools is not a civilian target, or is not a military target. So why is Ukraine continuing to target these zones and using American weapons? By the way, American HIMARS using all of these drones, hundreds and hundreds of drones launched into Crimea over the past 24 hours ahead of the victory celebrations that were set to take place in Moscow. And a massive attack inside of Crimea just happening, targeting Russian military infrastructure, they say, there. Again, Crimea is supposed to be on the table for negotiations right now. Like, you need to walk away from Crimea, Zelensky. This was part of Trump's message to him. Also, maybe the other big regions, of course, that voted to become part of the Russian Federation.
It was also part of the Minsk agreements, but they attacked anyway. So they have never actually honored their agreement to be peaceful with the people of Crimea or Eastern Ukraine. Look that up. Easy to find. Sorry.
Oh, okay. On top of that, reports this week the United States is sending Zelensky more weapons again. I thought Trump was done with that.
If you've ever had a cup of coffee that makes you feel younger, more alive, well, that's where you go for 1775's Rejuvenate Coffee. It's a bold dark roast infused with KAAKG. That's the same compound studied to reverse biological age by up to 8 years. You guys, it fuels your cells, sharpens your minds, and supports long-term strength, all without popping a cabinet full of supplements or drinking swamp water in a bottle. This isn't junk lab. It's not a mystery blend. It's just real single origin, small batch coffee that will make you go boing, which is what you buy coffee for, isn't it? Well, here's the best part. When you buy 1775 coffee, you're backing free speech, freedom of choice, and a company that backs the same creative values that we do here on Redacted. So no corporate overlords, just some products made for people who really believe in something real and want to add something to the economy. So go to 1775coffee.com, grab their anti-aging longevity roast, use the code Redacted, and you'll get 15% off. So feel sharper, stronger, younger, and know that you're fueling the companies that give a damn about your health and freedom. That's 1775coffee.com/redacted. Use the code Redacted.
So let's bring in Colonel Rob Maness now, who joins us to talk all about this and what is happening here. And Colonel, good to see you. Welcome back.
Hey, Clayton. Good to see y'all. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. So what do you make of these reports over the past few days? United States continuing to send weapons into Ukraine, and they tell us, "Oh, don't worry about it. They're just Patriot missile systems. These are purely defensive. Don't worry about it." And I saw the spin on some of this. Oh, this could have been just like a leftover from the Biden times. And President Trump is president. So what do you make of this continuing to happen right now?
Yeah, I'm as concerned and somewhat confused as you guys are. I mean, I thought the president had given direct orders that we would pause shipments until he could get his feet on the ground with a peace agreement and get that ball really rolling. I mean, there has been some forward movement on that. The president talked about a 3-day ceasefire that President Putin announced this morning, I think it was, or late last night. And that's good news. But, man, I thought we were going to be full throttle on this and get the killing stopped, most importantly, very quickly. But you see both sides being intransigent. And then, you were talking about Ukraine attacking nursery schools and those kinds of targets. I mean, that's just way out of the law of armed conflict. I mean, the Russians have been accused of doing things like that, too. There's usually some kind of basis for those kind of things. Unfortunately, though, we don't know, and we can't know And okay, if we're shipping only Patriot and defensive weapons to it, the president can make that part of the deal. He could sweeten the pot for the Russians and say, hey, we'll do a verification regime with this so you can go in and actually see it. We've had that type of treaty with the Soviet Union and Russians before that worked very well between our two countries. But we're not seeing that kind of innovative discussion or proposal being put on the table. I know there's back channel and behind the scenes discussions going on, of course, with both sides. But it's very frustrating. I'm very concerned that we're losing momentum on any kind of peace deal to get this killing stuff.
And yet some of the conversation is around, we're going to now work with Turkey to instate a peace deal in Ukraine. Working with Turkey obviously pisses off Israel. So it's, you have to be careful who you're associating with if you're a diplomat right now. But some of the language is being presented to us as if, well, this is what's going to happen after the peace deal. In the United Kingdom, Keir Starmer is saying we're going to do 5-year deployments. So UK soldiers will be in Ukraine, and basically they're mercenaries. They're replacing all of the dead Ukrainian military that they don't have anymore. So do you think the United States might go along with something like that? And for instance, Clayton's father was in Germany after World War II to just keep the peace. Would we have an agreement like that where we'd have US soldiers there to just hold the line?
Well, Clayton's dad was in his military was in a position where we had won that war outright, completely unconditional surrender. The German army was decimated, no longer capable as a force. The Nazi party was decimated from that perspective and no longer a viable force. We don't have that situation here. I don't think President Putin is ever going to accept a NATO country's troops on the ground inside Ukraine as some kind of peacekeeping, peace monitoring force. We're going to have to go to some place like an India or some other type of capability there, because I just don't think it's going to be acceptable. But what I do think is that the president needs to get back into this if he thinks he's stepped out of it a little bit, like Marco Rubio keeps talking about, and really start pushing on the Ukrainians to get them to stop doing what they're doing, and push on the Russians to get them to stop what they are doing with this type of targeting and come to this table. Because, look, it's good that we have a NATO ally like Turkey, I guess. And look, guys, I've been one of the people that has said Turkey should never be in NATO anyway, because it's becoming an Islamist theocracy, really, in my opinion, which is never good for Western democracies. But they were the parties that held the meetings that resulted in the Istanbul agreements that initially, remember, Zelensky had agreed to, and then we sent Boris Johnson in to derail that back then, and they pulled out of that. And it's my understanding that Putin's side has laid on the table that the items that were in the Istanbul agreement, they are still in agreement to. So there's a opening here to get this job done. We just have to have the right people to help make that opening happen. And I think most of the intransigence is on the Ukraine side.
Yeah, it seems to be. And J.D. Vance just in the last few days basically saying he doesn't think that this is going to end well right now. So he's thrown a little bit of cold water on this. And it seems, as everyone in our chat room is saying, why is Ukraine continuing to sort of scuttle these peace talks? Seems like all of this is on Ukraine. And you have an entire generation, multiple generations of young men, even older men now, just wiped out completely. There's nothing left. Russia has said they're not going to come to the table with Zelensky as the arbiter of these peace agreements. So it seems to be really stuck right now. But Putin has this 72-hour Victory Day ceasefire proposal still on the table. He's pushing for this while we move towards May 9th for these celebrations. You have a lot of world leaders who are saying, screw whatever Ukraine tries to do. We're flying into Moscow anyway. We're going to celebrate what the Soviets did to stop the Nazis. We're going to be here. You're going to continue to launch drone attacks inside of Moscow. Like, I agree with you. I'm like, where is the leadership right now from the White House on this? firm.
I think the United States should send a representative team, a diplomatic team to those celebrations. Look, the Soviet Union, the Russians lost many, many more millions of people dead, not just wounded, but dead to win World War II. And look, the UK and France and the United States allies, we were all allied with them. And we should be celebrating in that Victory Day celebration with them, regardless of what the Ukrainians are going to do. As a matter of fact, the Ukrainians should take this opportunity and could easily take this opportunity and send Zelensky to Moscow for the celebration with a team to negotiate on the side. They could do that.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah.
I would bet that they would be welcome, because this is the biggest of big deals in Russia. This Victory Day celebration that happens on May 9th every single year, because it was such a huge sacrifice, Clayton. I mean, the American people that are alive today absolutely do not understand the level of sacrifice the Russian people, but from peasants to the elite, put in the cause of victory of World War II. And without them, we would not have won the victory that we won from the Westerns.
No, absolutely. I think people forget that all the time. I mean, the upwards of 27 million Soviets that died fighting Hitler, died fighting the Nazis. We swoop in right on D-Day, right after already it had been cleared. It was a clear path to victory. So people forget that. And I think it's, you go to the D-Day museums, they actually do call attention to that, point out
They
that.
do. They have Stalin's picture up there as
pointing
one
out
of the
that-
leaders of the winning side. Yep.
I think you're right. It would be amazing. But right now, these civilian attacks continue. We'll get you out of here on this, Colonel. Why do you think, why is Zelensky, are the Ukrainians continuing to attack Crimea? Why are they continuing to attack civilians? What is the goal? What is the mission, do you believe, on their side by attacking civilians?
From a military perspective, I think they're very worried, and they should be very worried, that they may lose Odessa, the port, the one Black Sea port system that they have, and probably think that continuing to attack Crimea keeps a damper on those forces being able to break out and invade and go into Odessa and take that territory over. But if they're worried about that, Clayton, they ought to be getting themselves to the peace table and saying, hey, we'll sign up to the Istanbul Agreement, just like the Russians said they would. And I think overnight you would see a dramatic difference. But I'll be honest with you, I don't have real high hopes for anything like that happening.
Yeah, I agree with you. And you're right about, Odessa. We've for years been covering on this show how if they lose Odessa, they lose a country. You're a landlocked country. If you lose Odessa, you're done. You are absolutely done. So great point on that. Colonel, great to see you as always. We appreciate your insights here. Thank you so much. Fingers crossed that cooler heads can prevail and we actually get some kind of movement towards peace. Thank you, Colonel.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.